Today, Vice President Kamala Harris is scheduled to certify the results of the presidential election. She lost to Donald Trump. 4 years ago, there was chaos on Capitol Hill for the certification of Joe Biden's victory over Trump. Speaking to reporters, President Biden says there will be a peaceful transfer of power.
There's no problem with us. I think there's a problem internally with them in terms of their decision being made. But we made ourselves available. I spent a couple hours with him. I told him I'd find out what he needs. We got to get back to establishing basic democratic norms.
In a video message, Vice President Harris described her role as a sacred obligation to ensure the peaceful transfer of power. Pope Francis named Cardinal Robert McElroy of San Diego as the Archbishop of Washington, D.C., tapping one of his most progressively like-minded allies to head the Catholic Church in the capital at the start of the second Trump administration. There is no clear Oscar favorite coming out of last night's Golden Globe Awards in Hollywood. Shogun was the big winner on the TV side. Demi Moore won for Best Actress in a Comedy or Musical. Her comeback performance in The Substance, about a Hollywood star who resorts to an experimental process to regain her youth, landed the 62-year-old Moore her first Globe. She was once told she was a popcorn actress.
I've done what I was supposed to do. And as I was at kind of a low point, I had this magical, bold, courageous, out-of-the-box, absolutely bonkers script come across my desk called The Substance. And the universe told me that you're not done.
The big movie winners at the Golden Globes were Brady Corbett's 215-minute post-war epic The Brutalist and the genre-shifting trans musical Amelia Perez. This is AP News. With 2 weeks left to go, Secretary of State Antony Blinken is on what is expected to be his final overseas trip in office. The AP's Charles De Ledesma has the story.
He's met with officials in South Korea. At a news conference, Blinken highlights concerns over deepening ties between Russia and North Korea.
This is a two-way street. The DPRK is already receiving Russian military equipment and training.
The Secretary of State also condemned the North on Monday for firing a ballistic missile that flew nearly 700 miles before landing in waters between the Korean Peninsula and Japan, South Korea's military says.
We condemn the DPRK's missile launch just today, yet another violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions.
Blinken added he doesn't think the US-South Korea alliance has been damaged in the aftermath of the political turmoil in Seoul. I'm Charles De Ledesma.
And I'm Ed Donahue. AP News.
This is 8:20 a.m. WCPT Willow Springs and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Paul Trombley. A winter weather advisory continues until 4 p.m. this afternoon. Mixed precipitation likely, changing to all snow today. Otherwise, cloudy skies expected. Daytime highs approaching 29, northerly winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. Slight chance of snow tonight. Lows level off around 16, partly cloudy. 1 to 2 inches of snow today through tonight. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently 24.
Lowe's knows how to help you save time and money, no matter the job. That's why we can deliver supplies to your job site as soon as same day, so you have more time to get the job done. Because when you need it fast, we've got you covered. Lowe's knows pros. Valid on eligible in-stock orders and select zip codes placed by 2 p.m. for same-day delivery by 8 p.m. Subject to driver availability. Fees vary based on purchase. More terms apply. See Lowe's.com/same-day delivery for details.
You're listening to WCPT 820 because facts matter.
Welcome to Choose Views with Richard Chew. Get ready to dive into a world of insightful conversations and thought-provoking discussions.
As progressives, our job is to have an all-inclusive, full-on assault with all of our players.
A show that will focus on moving our political, social, economic, gender, and cultural conversation forward.
And all of our players means all of our players.
It's Choose Views. And now, here's your host, Richard Chew.
Good Monday morning, progressives. And yes, welcome to the January 6, 2025 edition of Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Facebook Live, TuneIn Radio, YouTube, Twitter stream, and, of course, iHeartRadio, where you can find us. Email me at richard@WCPT820.com. Morning to you guys. Morning to my man Henry, who's got us on the rails and is going to keep us there today. Looking forward to your calls. Looking forward to your text messages so that we can talk about all that good stuff. And, of course, you can catch all of our shows by subscribing to our WCPT podcast on Apple Podcasts or on Spotify. You can find us over there. You can catch Choose Views, short version and long version. Joan Esposito, live, local, and progressive. Driving It Home with Patty Vasquez. The Big Picture with Edwin Eisendrath and Out Chicago and others. Great shows that we have here on the station. Thank you all for supporting us and the work that we do. Check out our heartlandsignal.com digital platform. It's lots of good stuff there. So make your way over there, get yourself over there and check us out if you can't catch us live. And use that as an opportunity for you to pass on our broadcast and information to the folks that you care about, the folks that you love. And every now and again, that person who's just being hard-headed, as I'm sure you all know what that means. Growing up like I did, that was a phrase that we became very familiar with, but not for very long periods of time. You did not want to be categorized as a hard-headed person, unless it were about your determination. But get the information that you can share to the people that you care about that might be struggling in this period of time that we're in, and help them be able to know that there's a lifeline to reach out to people and for them to share. That's the cool thing about it. And I'll start off by saying this. And one of the cool things, I guess you could say one of the unique things that happens about the way we communicate right now. I had an opportunity, when I go through the emails that you guys send me, some of you have requested clips, some of you want information about a variety of things, you want different links. And every now and again, someone will send me something that is great. And guys, last week, we had a caller, George D., who emails me often with great information. But he called in last week and he talked about the whole concept around the DEI flower garden. And I asked him to send it to me. So I want to read this to you guys this morning, given the date that we're on, January 6th, and then, just where we are. The gardens that people cultivate and then will contain flowers of several species that have various patterns of petals, appearances, textures, and there can be a single species of flower that will have several different shades of color, maybe emit different fragrances that all adds to the variety and to the beauty of the garden. The gardener can certainly add their touch to the garden, but the variety of flowers may very well attract the bees that will fly right in and pollinate and the various flowers and therefore create a biologically stronger and healthier garden. Thank you. Right on. Cheers. High fives. Big hugs to you, George, for writing that, putting that together and sending it to me. That means a lot that you would take the time to send that I can then share with our listeners and followers, because it's so incredibly important that we continue to provide you guys with as much information as possible. And sometimes it comes from you guys. And that's why I always talk about the importance of sharing. I want to give another shout out to Jennifer, who's up in Lake Geneva. And I'll have to give this shout out to her again later in the show. She takes care of people. I don't want to give out too much of her own personal information, but she takes care of people and has a commute every day from Lake Geneva to Woodstock. And as a person that's in the business of caring for folks, she needs to be propped up and supported every now and again. And so I got a clip to her that she wanted to have and the ability to share that with people. So shout out to you, Jennifer. I know that you're out there taking care of people and making sure that the folks that are in need of care get the care that they need. So just wanted to give you, no pun intended, pivoting from George's point, but I want to give you your flowers as well, Jennifer, because what you do makes sure that people are safe and healthy. So we appreciate you in that space. I hope you guys had a good weekend. I'll be so bold as to say a good weekend because it was cold. And today's weather report from me is if you are heading out right now, y'all need to be careful and safe because it's gotten windy, Henry, and it got a little bit then the temperature dropped and it got moist. So what does that lead to? That leads to slick ground. Both the streets, the sidewalks, the parking lots, stepping off the bus, stepping off the train. Well, probably not the train underneath, but wherever you are this morning, if you're commuting in the city of Chicago, please, y'all, be careful because it's slick out there. So just be mindful. If you're hearing my voice and you normally leave at 6:30 to get to work, leave at 6:25. Give yourself a couple extra minutes just so that I know that you guys are safe today. And it's not snowing heavily. It's just the temperature's down and we got moisture. So please be careful, y'all. Just give yourself a couple extra minutes. And if you know somebody that might have some ambulatory issues in terms of getting around, check on them today to make sure that if they have to get out in the slickness that they've got what they need. So please y'all do that. Okay. Just wanted to put that little bit of vibe out there and make sure that we're taking care of each other in that space of commuting and getting about. Got some clips for you that are going to make you smile, might make you curse a little bit. One of them I played before, right after the election, shortly after the election, that is kind of it's kind of a calling out to say, this is where we really are, America. Don't fool yourself. So we'll get to that in a bit. And I'm going to take a couple of minutes to sing some praises to someone, and then we'll hit our. Well, you know what? No, we'll do Choose Views News now, and then when we come back from the break, then we'll talk a little bit about some nice things that were put out this weekend that I want you guys to be aware of. But as I say, major storm, winter storm snarls travel to over 60 million people from the Central Plains to the Mid-Atlantic under winter weather alerts from this past yesterday and these next couple of days. As major weather and winter storms, heavy snow in some areas, and crippling ice, is affecting travel today, and obviously going to be very hazardous. Potential tree damage is likely to cause some power outages in different parts of the upper Midwest and the Mid-Atlantic. About 5,200 flights into and out of the U.S. were delayed in the last 12 hours due to the potential crazy weather that we're dealing with. Blizzard conditions in certain parts of Kansas and Missouri have been reported. So, again, if y'all are out and about, please be safe anywhere you are in the country, particularly in upper Midwest and the parts of the Mid-Atlantic. Speaking of travel, Boeing safety still in the spotlight. And why? Their mid-air blowout that sparked a series of investigations and safety scandals. The troubled aviation giant Boeing is still dealing with the fallout. The outgoing head of the FAA said the department's enhanced oversight of Boeing will continue indefinitely and urged the company to pursue a fundamental cultural shift. And that's probably what needs to happen if there's persistent issues. Maybe it starts inside, top down. Starlink. Got to report it. Got to report what we find. Wi-Fi on United by springtime. So Elon's getting his thumbs into stuff again, or indirectly with his companies. United Airlines is speeding up its timeline for equipping flights with SpaceX's Starlink Wi-Fi. It will begin testing the satellite internet service in February and bring it into commercial flights this spring, on ultimately expanding to its entire fleet of nearly 1,000 aircraft. United will offer the in-flight Wi-Fi for free to members of its Mileage Plus program. So it's really not free, but kind of free. The move comes as travelers increasingly expect faster, more reliable connectivity. According to The Verge, Delta Airlines currently offers free Wi-Fi to members of its loyalty programs, and Starlink has smaller deals with Hawaiian Airlines and the semi-private carrier JSX. All right, Generation Beta. This one's a new one to me. Makes a big entrance. The name could perhaps still use some workshopping, but Generation Beta has officially begun to make its entrance with the dawning of the new year. The successors to Generation Alpha betas will encompass children born between 2025 and 2039. While the defining social and cultural distinctions between generations only become apparent as they grow up, Axios notes that Beta will be the second generation born entirely in the 21st century. That's interesting. U.S. workers are getting more productive. That's what we do, y'all. U.S. workers in the U.S. are more productive than ever before, and certainly before COVID-19, the COVID-19 pandemic, according to the Department of Labor statistics. Productivity increased 2% in the third quarter of last year versus the third quarter of 2023. Now, that's exciting to hear, marking the fifth consecutive quarter during which productivity gains exceeded 2%. By comparison, in the 5 years preceding the pandemic, quarterly growth continued more than 2%. Was that type of quarterly growth was only achieved twice. What's changed? Artificial intelligence, the wide adoption of virtual work technologies, a large immigration wave, and an upheaval in the labor market that shuffled people into better jobs. And last but not least, Costco, one of my favorite companies, is building more homes, and this is what's happening. Costco is partnering with Thrive Living, the real estate developer, to address the housing crisis in South Los Angeles, according to the Wall Street Journal. Costco plans to build 800 apartments above one of its stores starting throughout the early part of this year, 184 of which could be for lower-income residents. This would be the retailer's first U.S. residential complex with a built-in store. How about that? And it would pay rent to Thrive to reduce the developer's need for government subsidies. Not bad. The development, which uses new legislation in California to speed up the approval process, is expected to be completed in 2027. So there you go. Costco, once again, doing their thing to make things better for the people that they serve, and that's the overall community. So good on Costco. All right, guys, we're getting this started. Let's take a quick break. The number, of course, is 773-763-9278. Choose Views. We'll be right back.
Millions of Americans take medicine like Ozempic and Zepbound. Many of them are overpaying by thousands of dollars a year. These GLP-1 medications for diabetes, weight loss, and more may not always be covered by your insurance, but GoodRx can help. GoodRx helps you save every month on prescriptions at over 70,000 pharmacies nationwide. Best of all, it's free to use. Check GoodRx to save on GLP-1s. Just go to GoodRx.com/GLP. That's GoodRx.com/GLP. GoodRx is not insurance, but can be used instead of insurance, including Medicare and other federal and state-funded programs.
Slip it, cup it, check. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
Slip it, cup it, check. Talk to doctor now and share it.
Nearly 1 in 2 U.S. adults have high blood pressure. That's why it's important to self-monitor your blood pressure in 4 easy-to-remember steps. It starts with a monitor. Be next to talk to your doctor about your blood pressure numbers. Get down with your blood pressure. Self-monitoring is power. Visit managerbp.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council, the American Heart Association, and the American Medical Association, in partnership with the Office of Minority Health and Health Resources and Services Administration.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Because facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. As always, great to be with you guys here on this Monday morning, January 6, 2025. See, I didn't say it. Henry got it right, man. Got it right. Okay, so you know, we have to raise our hands and applaud every time something great happens. And we had a couple of really neat things happen this weekend that may not necessarily be political, but they are social and they are important to our society in giving recognition. One of them, you guys may know where I'm going with this, but one you may not. Locally, and I say, you know, from the standpoint of sports, this is important. Derrick Rose, former Bulls player. And Chicagoan, right here, good old Chicago, was retired, or his jersey was retired, and he was honored at halftime, the Bulls-Knicks game on Saturday, which I didn't know about, but I did. Actually, Mayor Brandon Johnson, who might be might be sending us a little wave later this week. A little tease for you guys. I'll keep you posted on that. But Mayor Johnson gave him a plaque, made it, I think it was Friday. That was Derrick Rose Day. I guess Derrick Rose has got a new rose shop. Is that correct? But here's the good rub of this. He was able to soak it in as some of his former teammates referred to him as the people's champ. Derrick never got a ring for championship, but for a guy who was from Chicago, he was able to do some great things. An MVP, just outstanding basketball player. And the great part, the humanistic part of a person came out with Derrick Rose as his career evolved. And so he was literally given his flowers on Saturday. And a number of people in the arena were cheered up. And when I saw the video of Joakim Noah, is it Joakim Noah? I knew his father, Yannick Noah, tennis player. That goes back a few years, but that he gave him his flowers, and the stadium was lit up in red, which was kind of very appropriate. And he was able to, meaning Derrick Rose, take it in and being honored at halftime. So kudos to this young man, this great player, and as it's turned out, an even greater citizen here in the city of Chicago. So if you happen to be out and about and you see Derrick Rose on the street, because he'll probably be hanging out in his hometown, give him a thumbs up, because he did well during his relatively short career, but pretty amazing career with the Bulls and Knicks and Cavaliers. Is that right? I think that's right. But I just thought it was appropriate to mention that, given that we are here in Chicago and Derrick Rose in the city of Chicago and the Bulls made it clear that we love you and we love what you did for the city. We have a guest today in the 7:30 hour, Alex Nitkin, who will be talking, since we're talking about local stuff, we're talking about speed limits. And you guys you'll appreciate the conversation that we're going to have with Alex in the 7:30 hour. But getting back to acknowledgments and I guess you could say giving people their flowers. The president, that being President Joe Biden, not the guy that they're referring to as president, 34 times XCF. But President Biden made it clear with the long list of Medal of Freedom recipients. Names like Hillary Clinton, Denzel Washington, Bono, Bill Nye, George Soros, Jose Andres. The list was a spectacular list of people that have done spectacular things, not just for the country, but for the world. And I think it was amazing to see that. And a lot of times, well, let me put it this way. I don't say a lot of times. There are times when Democrats, progressive liberal Democrats, get accused of being too, in touch with Hollywood and not in touch with, or celebrity and not in touch with everyday people. And I call BS on that. Straight up BS on that. And the media's gotten away with it. And they've given cover to the Republicans time and time again about they're the ones that are down with the, everyday working class, middle class folks. No, we are. And I call out some of my colleagues in the progressive conversation about that, because some of them have slipped into that conversation, Henry, of saying that we're too Beyonce-fied, or we're too Denzel-fied, or we're too, other celebrity. Listen, many of those celebrities come from what? They come from middle class, regular families, right? Denzel wasn't born with a spoon in his mouth. Jose Andres wasn't born with a spoon in his mouth. Beyonce came from a middle class family, but who cares? So the list of our celebrities and successful people, Derrick Rose is a good example, So why is it that we can't think about the craziness of this, y'all? Just think about this for a second. We can't celebrate our success from people who come from the regular ranks. We get accused of that. We're not in touch with the regular folks. Yes, we are. The whole purpose of having a Beyonce or a Denzel or the list goes on of celebrities and as part of our conversation politically is to show, look where they came from and look at what they've done. And the list goes on and on and on. So when I see that the president acknowledges many of these folks, Jane Goodall, Anna Wintour, Bill Nye, George Stevens, Ralph Lauren, Magic Johnson came from East Lansing, Michigan. He didn't come from stuff, but see, it took 25 minutes. Henry's laughing like, okay, here he goes. So I'm proud of the fact. I mean, Michael J. Fox, David Rubenstein, Tim Gill, gets me choked up. These are regular folks that exceeded the odds. They did great things. They came from middle America in many cases. So when I hear actually Democrats slipping into that, we should have talked more than the middle. These are folks who, if that's not the conversation around the American dream, then nothing is, Henry. You know, Mount Vernon, New York, Denzel Washington, preacher's son, goes on to be who he is. That's the American dream. So why is it that we have to suddenly make the conversation about talking to middle-class America be, we got to sit at a diner only? Why? I don't get that one. Why can't the middle-class American depiction be of a woman who was raised by a single parent, mother or father, from wherever in the country, that went on to go to college, medical school, and become one of the best surgeons on the planet, and be wealthy? Why can't that be part of the story about talking to middle-class America or talking about mainstream America? She came from mainstream America. And there's millions, frankly, stories like that in our country where that person grew up in a small little community and went on to become one of the leaders of the country, or leading voices in a particular category of engineering or aerospace or politics or business or law or medicine. See, we got this wrong when it comes to who middle-class America is. And part of the problem is we're stuck in this thinking that the only people that we can appeal to are the folks, and there's no dissing here to anybody. Maybe I'll put this, not maybe, I'm going to put this in a positive light. Our goal as progressive liberal Democrats is to talk to everybody. It ain't just to talk to the folks that are at the diner with the card hearts on. And I'm not dogging anybody. Don't get me wrong. I'm not that guy. So we have to, as part of our strategy going forward, stop saying that we didn't talk to middle America and start saying we're going to talk to everybody. Because a lot of the people that didn't vote, Henry, are upper middle class folks that just said, screw it, I ain't doing it this time. It's not just folks who are not in the, quote, upper income category. And we know that based on the data, not me being hyperbolic or anecdotal. So when I was making my notes, I made a note to say, talk about the people who rose to certain ranks that started from what we would call the American diner personality. And let me be candid about this. There's diners in all communities in the country, not just in the predominantly rural white American communities. There's diners all over all neighborhoods throughout the United States of America. So if I'm messaging right now to the Democratic Party and to the leadership that's going to be in place for the DNC, it ain't about just speaking to middle class American or middle America. It's about talking to all Americans. And the problem with the message that says, well, we missed middle America, is that you then turn off somebody else because you then redirected your energies and all of that to this group because people say you missed them. Nah, you didn't talk to everybody. When you talk to everybody, then everybody realizes it is about all of us coming together. It is about us. I'm looking at Henry, so I don't want to feel like I'm preaching to Henry. I'll look at the camera. That's what this is about, guys. And these Medal of Freedom recipients highlight that. These are folks from all walks of life achieving greatness in our country. So we need to reach out politically, socially, economically to all walks of life. Democrats, stop buying into this conversation that we need to talk to the middle America. No, we didn't. We missed everybody. If we missed one in one category, we missed them all. That's the message that's got to be there. Howard Dean was right 20 years ago now. 50-state strategy. Doggone it, Dems. If you can't figure that, get me in the mix. I'll get in the mix and tell you it's a 50-state strategy. We have to go after every single person in every doggone state if we want to see some change. I've been sitting on this for a few weeks because I didn't want anybody to think I'd lost my damn mind. And then when I saw the medal, I thought, okay, I got to come on with this. If the Democratic Party missed anything, they missed everybody. And they missed everybody by thinking that we're going to focus on this group because this group. No, focus on there is an LGBTQ person that's the head of a business somewhere in America. So you can focus on business leaders and the LGBTQ community at the same time. You can focus on people who run small businesses in rural communities and focus on the LGBTQ community in that segment at the same time. That's the part that we missed. We missed. Now, I'm going to get into mainstream media in a little bit, but I have to say this morning because I saw that and I thought, no, our message has to be that. It's got to be to everybody. If we're going to call ourselves a big tent, then doggone it, then let's be about being a big tent. And stop trying to just go after microgroups. And more importantly, stop buying into someone saying we need to go after microgroups, but we need to stop saying we missed middle America. Because when you then say that, then there's people in other parts of the country that go, well, what about us? And we have the capacity as progressive liberal Democrats to reach everybody with a common message, a broad message, and then a specific message at the same time. We can walk and chew gum at the same time. So we're going to take a break so I can take a breather, and Henry won't think I'm yelling at him. The number is 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Hey there, folks. It's Carrie Joy with your Work Money Minute and a tip about saving money when you are renting a car. So you know how you get to the rental counter and then they ask you if you want to prepay for gas so you don't have to bring the car back full. Well, I used to get sweaty in those moments as I wasn't sure what the right money choice was. Prepaying for gas at the rental counter? Not worth it. First off, rental companies often charge more per gallon on the prepay than local gas stations do at the pump. And even if they're about equal, fees or taxes on your rental can tip the scales against prepaying. And you'd have to return that car completely empty to get the full value of buying prepaid gas. Otherwise, you're just buying gas for Avis and Budget or whoever. Quick note, make sure you have time to refill the tank before you return the rental. If you don't prepay and you don't fill up, they are going to charge you like they have refilled that car with liquid gold. For more tips, head to workmoney.org. Till next time, this is Carrie Joy saying, take good care.
You are listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter weather advisory is in effect for the forecast area. We'll see periods of snow showers here for today, possibly mixing with areas of freezing rain early on. Total daytime accumulation of 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the north at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Tonight, a slight chance for snow early on. Partly cloudy skies develop, a low near 16. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 25.
Alexa, play WCPT.
WCPT from TuneIn.
Welcome back to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views. So listen, I think what I was saying before the break about we have to make sure our message is a 50-state message from now until forever. I think that's the message, a lesson learned, should be the lesson learned by the Democratic leadership. It's not, and I'm talking across the board. So let's break this down. Mayor Johnson here in Chicago, Cook County President Preckwinkle, Governor Pritzker. I'll use our state as an example. Our message has to be to the entire city of Chicago, whether you voted for the mayor or not. He still has the responsibility of making sure he's taking care of folks that didn't vote for him or didn't vote at all. That's his job. And I'm going to be a partner with him to help him get that done. I promise you that. Cook County President, the second largest county in America, y'all. Ms. Preckwinkle, know her as well. Work to make sure she does the thing to help everybody in Cook County and, of course, the Collar counties in terms of her relationship with those leaders so that everybody benefits, not just the folks that voted for her. And the same thing for Governor Pritzker. Governor Pritzker is right on his hell. People can criticize him all day long, but I'm down with Governor Pritzker because he's trying to do the thing that I think is most important, and that's help everybody in the state. And hell, he's trying to help folks in other states that need to come here for medical care in terms of women's reproductive rights. So I'm going to be down with any person that's trying to do that, period. Call me a fool. I don't think I am. But that's how we need to roll as progressive liberal Democrats. We have to let everybody know we're down with them, irrespective of their state in life. And I'm going to read something to you that's a version of what I said, but I got this, received this text that I think is really important to exemplify what I'm talking about. Why can't a girl raised in a middle-class Republican Chicago suburb who went to Wesley and Yale, only use the first 25 years of her career defending children? That woman then used her positions as First Lady of Arkansas, then the nation, and becoming a U.S. Senator from New York who helped rebuild New York City after 9/11, then as Secretary of State, promoted democracy around the world, and damn close to being the 45th president. That's exactly right. So we can have our celebrity, our folks who've made it as an example, and not be denigrated for being uber wealthy or very successful, because oftentimes it's those people who are the most charitable. And look at the lineup of people who receive the Presidential Medal of Freedom. Charitable as hell. Came from, in many cases, the type of background that, and this came from our good friend Kurt Herner in Akron, Ohio. I don't want to take credit for something that's not mine. So see, this is who we are. We're also not people who on this day, today, are going to tear some, almost said something wrong. Woo, Lord, help me, help me, help me. Henry saw me welling up. We aren't people that are going to tear stuff down. You know where I'm going. And I don't want to take the words of our wonderful House of Majority leader, Hakeem Jeffries, and what he had to say over this weekend. Henry and I put this clip together so you guys can enjoy it as well.
2 months ago, the American people elected Donald Trump as the 47th president of the United States of America. Thank you for that very generous applause. It's okay. There are no election deniers on our side of the aisle. You see, one should love America. One should love America when you win and when you lose. That's the patriotic thing to do, and that's the America that House Democrats will fight hard to preserve because we love this country.
You see which got the bigger applause, and that is that came from the Democrats when Hakeem Jeffries said, we aren't going to tear stuff down. Okay, we're going to accept the outcome in the vein that we can. Not one that we wanted, but we're going to accept it and do the things that are about fighting for the country. He didn't say fight for Republicans. He didn't say fight for the wealthy, the middle class, the working poor. He said fight for the country. That's who we are. And we need to wear that cape like nobody's business. We need to walk around on this day and days going forward like the badasses we are with that cape and dare a Republican, a MAGA, a maggot, to challenge us on who we are and what we stand for. Whether we come from a family that is of wealth and we went on to do great things with it, upper middle class, I hate the words lower middle class, but the working regular folks. I'm going to put it that way. I'm trying to put positive words on something where people often get denigrated. I'm not down with that. But doggone it, we need to wear the cape of being proud, progressive, liberal Democrats. That we're fighting for everybody in the country, because we know damn well that the Republicans are not going to. They've already shown it. They've shown it not just since the election. They were showing it 2, 4, 6, 8, 10 years back since this knucklehead came to the scene. And yeah, what I'm hoping for you guys is there's a little bit of moxie and a little bit of the sadness that we've now had essentially 2 months to embrace and work through, not saying anybody's on a time schedule in terms of dealing with the frustration and sadness of the election. I'm not putting anybody on a time clock. So don't take it this way. Take it from this perspective, which is we now know, as we've known, that these folks are full of garbage. And I'm talking about local Republicans, too. I got an email from our good friend Al about Illinois Republicans, and it was disgusting, Henry. It was just right out disgusting. So it's not just a national. And I'm for those who don't like me saying that, then do something to fix the problem. Don't come at me for having that opinion. Let's do something to fix the problem. And the problem is not Democrats. Democrats don't get it right all the time, for sure. But we're not trying to hurt the country. We're not trying to take the country backward. I say that often because I want you to be reminded of it when you encounter somebody that brings you garbage. Put that suit on, put that cape on that says, I'm not having it. I'm not having it. And Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries ain't having it. And I'm glad he said the words that he did. Because in the words of Richard Chew, MAGA, we told you so. Y'all messed up. And some of y'all are going to feel the pain, and some of you are going to acknowledge that there's someone standing on your foot, and others are not going to. You're going to just say that that's no one stepping on my foot, but it's somebody stepping on your foot, and it's not Democrats. We're the ones that are trying to help you get some new shoes, from the ones that are going to get ruined by the policies that are going to come forward from this administration. And how, if there's going to be trickle down, talk about Reagan's old trickle down garbage. There's going to be trickle down. It'll be the trickle down of the pain that you're going to feel in local communities because of the garbage that the Republicans are going to bring forward in terms of federal policy, Project 2025 and all the rest. That's the pain. That's what you're going to feel in terms of trickle down. It ain't going to be trickle down of the wealth. It's not going to be trickle down of the largesse of the country and the ability for the country to take care of itself. That's not going to happen. And if you don't believe me, look at what took place after Roe was sent back to the states and the number of rape-driven pregnancies that took place in certain states in the country. And that's only going to continue. They aren't going to fix that. They don't care to fix that. So, MAGA, y'all messed up. And we have a clip that we're going to play that you got to hear it. We're not going to shield you from it. We're going to help you hear this one, too, in terms of, you know what I'm talking about? Okay. Yeah.
MAGA, we are in the beginning of the longest, saddest, most excruciatingly and unsatisfying I told you so in the history of the world. And you're going to be reminded every day.
See? Not coming from me. It's coming from a regular, everyday person that says, we know what, y'all messed up. We told you so. We told you so. And in that vein, I want to give a shout out to Liz Cheney. I was trying to think of how I wanted to say it. I wanted to say my one that I don't fully agree with on a lot of the things she voted for. I've said that before, and I'll say it again. However, we all have as a great song by gospel singer Donnie McClurkin says, "We fall down, but we get up." And Liz Cheney may have, in my opinion, fallen down on some of her votes prior to J6 and being on that committee, but she got back up again. And so she gets, as many other people do, Kinzinger and that are Republicans and many, many others, they get their flowers. And so I want to acknowledge something that she posted this weekend. Donald, like she knows him, and she does. Donald, this is not the Soviet Union. You can't change the truth, and you cannot silence us. Remember all your lies about the voting machines, the election workers, your countless allegations of fraud that never happened. Many of your lawyers have been sanctioned, disciplined, or disbarred. The courts ruled against you, and dozens of your own White House administration and campaign aides testified against you. Remember how you sent a mob to our Capitol and then watched the violence on television and refused for hours to instruct the mob to leave. Remember how your former vice president prevented you from overturning our republic. We remember. And now, as you take office again, the American people need to reject your latest malicious falsehoods and stand as the guardrails of our constitutional republic to protect the America we love from you. Let me repeat this. And now, as you take office again, and this is why I wanted to kind of link all these things together in terms of what the 50-state strategy for the Democrats has to be going forward. And now, as you take office again, and this is the critical part of what Liz says, the American people need to reject your latest malicious falsehoods and stand as the guardrails of our constitutional republic to protect the America we love from you. I will probably read that again over the next 4 years. I'm going to keep it close to me because I want you guys to know that those are the words that we need to say. The American people need to reject your latest, whatever that might be. So, guys, it's January 6th, and I thought I should give a little bit of a shout out to Liz Cheney for her work on the J6 committee, and I'm glad that President Biden honored her along with Benny Thompson last week. So we'll take a quick break, grab some calls on the way back, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Menards is the one-stop shop for huge savings on new energy-efficient appliances. Upgrade your home today and save big on top appliance brands including KitchenAid, Maytag, Whirlpool, Amana, and Criterion. We carry the largest in-stock selection of home appliances starting at the lowest prices and ready to take home today. Check out our entire selection of home appliances on Menards.com. Plus, get 15% off everything you can fit in the bag. See store for complete details.
Save big money at Menards.
Chicago's Progressive Talk, WCPT 820, where facts matter.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's Progressive Talk.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Someone, a friend of mine was listening to the show last week when I got choked up talking about where we are and my thanks for 2024 in the show. And said, you okay? And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. I'm passionate about what we do, what we have the opportunity to do. So when I, speak about a Derrick Rose and the honoring that the city and the Bulls gave him, or I talk about those folks who were honored this weekend with the Presidential Medal of Freedom, I'm passionate about that because I want to see us move forward as a society. Tired of running around with the parachute on. Want that parachute to be cut loose so we can go forward. Okay, that's why I get every now and again I'll get choked up. I'll get a little misty because I'm okay with sharing my passion about what it is that we have the blessing to be able to do. And so, whether it be local politics, social issues, regional, national, it doesn't matter. International. My job, my belief, I should say, about my responsibility is to bring that to you guys. Because a lot of times getting teared up and getting choked up about something says it means something to you. And a lot of times we get the messaging wrong, that we can't feel the meaning about something. And I think that that's one of the things that we should own as progressive liberal Democrats. It shows that we care, in my opinion. So that's just to answer the question from a good friend of mine that said, "You okay, dude?" Yes, I'm more than okay. All right, let's grab a quick call, Henry. Let's go to Donna in Rogers Park. Good morning, Donna, and welcome to Choose Views.
Good morning, Richard. You know, the reason I wanted to call this morning is because most politicians over the years, when they talk about people in the country, they start at the middle class. Mm-hmm. That's their starting point. And there's a group that's always left out. That's the working poor.
Yeah.
The working poor live all over the United States. In fact, they don't live in tents. They're not homeless in tents, in parks, and on the street. Many of them have jobs that they hold down every day, and they're living out of their vehicles, out of their cars. They're couch surfing at people, their family members or friends' homes. They join health clubs so they can shower and get themselves in shape every day. But these are hardworking people, and they don't make enough money, even holding down more than one job, and they don't make enough money to have a home or an apartment, and they're homeless, and they're living out of their vehicles. But they mask it. They don't tell anyone. They're holding a whole lot in, and they're putting up with life, and they're being disrespected.
Yeah.
And I don't know how the country can trust wealthy people that have never had to go through anything. I mean, they're completely out of touch. Here, they're putting their lives in the hands of people that have never had to go through anything in their life. They've had a handout. Most of them, they come from families that made a way for them. They said they're self-made millionaires, billionaires, and so forth, and they're not.
They're not.
And they never have been self-made. and one thing that upsets me more than anything is when the politicians, and I'm talking about Democrats too, Democrats and Republicans and independents and libertarians, they start with the middle class. And to me, if we're ever going to make progress in this country, we're going to have to get some people in politics that start with the real group that makes everything possible for the middle class and up.
Yep.
And that's the working poor, because the working poor never gets included in the conversation.
Donna, I can't add anything to that other than a huge agreement. And let me partner with you for a moment. Part of the reason that I said what I said earlier in the show about what the Democrats have to recognize if we're going to be the party that does work toward fixing what you just said is that it's an all-inclusive conversation. I believe, Donna, you could talk to all groups at the same time. And it's a question of building the organizational structure to do that. So how do we talk to the folks that you're describing? And listen, I see them every single day of my life. And I make a point of slowing my universe down to find out if there's somebody that I can help, that it's a complete stranger that might give what you said. And you said it so well, Donna. Thank you. They put a mask on. They fake it. Not fake it's the wrong word, but they put on what they have to put on to get through every single day. And they do all the things you just described. I'm in touch with that. I know that exists. So when I say how do we
I'm with you on that one.
What's that?
I said, me too. I'm with you on that. And I'll tell you what upsets me about them. They are disrespected on a daily basis. And I'll tell you why they hide it. They do mask it because people, a lot of them that are working, they would get fired from their jobs if they told the truth. Instead of getting help, a hand up, they would get cut out.
Yep.
That's why. Even their own families, a lot of times, they hide it from. Why? Because they're looked down on.
Yeah.
Well, what's wrong with you? How come you can't save your money? They don't understand. The cost of living spiraling up. Pay is not keeping up with the cost of living.
I wrote this down.
And you got all these hedge fund people that are buying up properties. When you see these commercials on TV, if you want to sell your house, call us up. What they're doing is they're buying properties up that could be affordable homes. Instead of fixing them up and making them affordable, they're renting them out at these spiraling rental rates that they know no one can afford. That's part of the problem.
It is part of the problem, and it's been noted by people who paid attention to it. I've talked about it loosely before, and maybe I should do a better job of talking about that more in depth. And I will put that in my list of things that I need to cover. But let me come back to something that you said, Donna, about last week. I believe it was. Henry will have to help me out here. I said the biggest issue right now is not just inflation or not the increasing cost of things, but it's compensation. If we were to increase people, I think it was last week because I was talking about the Michigan's upgrade and New York's upgrade. Hell, if we just paid people more, not just, let me be fair and clear. Let's get out of the way of paying people more money. Let's get that done. How in the hell is it so difficult to say, well, we're going to make sure that the shareholder part of this is taken care of, but we're going to forget about the people who made sure that there was a business for there to be shares to offer in the first doggone place. So let's take care of paying people more. Let's get the hell out of the way about medical coverage. How tired of a conversation do we have to keep having about insurance? I mean, good Lord. Right. So let's take some of those basic things off the table. Pay people more money. There is no upper level and supreme upper level manager, CEO, C-suite person that's going to lose a doggone thing if the people, and I understand this for those out there who will want to push back and say, oh, but no, Richard, you got to understand that if the company, I get the numbers. So you're not going to fool me or throw me that garbage. I'm not talking to you, Donna. But if we paid people more with the largesse that every Fortune 1000 corporation and their subsidiaries have, we'd start to fix the problem right there. It's a fact. It's a numerical fact. There's one more point that I want to make before I hang up, Richard. There's one more point that I want to make. If they don't start paying people more, the working poor, the low class, the middle class, and all the groups that are under the elite, if they don't have money to circulate in the economy, what will end up happening is rich folks will just be buying shares of stock from each other. Right.
That's the lifeline of the country is circulating money. When money doesn't circulate, the upper level group doesn't benefit. They'll just be buying back shares of stock. We have to circulate money in the economy for the economy to flow. Money is not designed for a linear straight line. It's designed for a circular flow. And rich people better get the real lesson out of this. You got to pay people in order for everybody to make a living, including the upline people.
That's right.
So I'm just going to leave you with that. And we got to get ourselves. We got to put things in a proper perspective if we want to make it in this country.
It's a great point, Donna. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your contribution. I will, Donna, and happy 2025. We'll be here for you, so don't forget to call us back when you got something to say. Thanks, Donna.
Hey, check this out. We're going to have to support each other because we're going to need it over the next 2 to 4 years. We're going to really need each other, okay?
All right, Donna, thank you so much, dear. Bye-bye. All right, bye-bye. She's right on. Listen, I'm not going to try to deny it or tap dance around it. We need to pay people more money. It's that simple, and she's right. That's the circulation of money. Let me put that in a spiritual context. Circulation of resources. That's spiritual. I'm not getting into a specific religious category. That's spiritual. You have to share the blessing. You have to share the resources. If you don't do that, you start to eat your own, and that's exactly what Donna was talking about. I hope y'all heard that. All right, guys, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we will be right back.
If you're living with dry age-related macular degeneration or dry AMD, you may be at risk for developing geographic atrophy or GA. GA can be unpredictable and progress rapidly, leading to irreversible vision loss. Now there's something you can do to
slow it down and get it going slower.
Izervay is proven to slow GA progression.
Izervay. Izervay gets GA going slower.
Izervay or avacincaptad Pagel is a prescription eye injection used to treat GA. Don't take it if you have an infection or active swelling in or around your eye. Izervay can cause eye infection, retinal detachment, or increased risk of wet AMD. Izervay may temporarily increase eye pressure. Your vision may be impaired after an eye injection or exam. Don't delay. Ask your doctor about Izervay today.
Izervay gets GA going slower.
Visit Izervay.com. That's IZERVAY.com.
Paid for by Astellas Pharma.
If better health, more energy, and detoxing your body are some of your priorities this year, get Active Liver today. You can find Active Liver in stores at your local CVS or online at Amazon or NewNordicUSA.com.
AP News. Good morning, I'm Ed Donahue. Nippon Steel and U.S. Steel have filed lawsuits challenging President Biden's decision to block the $15 billion deal for the two companies to merge. The president travels to New Orleans later today to meet with grieving families of the 14 people killed by a pickup truck traveling through the French Quarter early on New Year's Day.
In New Orleans, it was a single man acting alone. All the talk about conspiracies with other people, no evidence of that, zero. He's the guy that put both those coolers there 6 hours earlier. He had a detonator in his vehicle that was supposed to explode them when it hit.
The president says the message to families of the victims in New Orleans is, it will take time, just hang on. The FBI says the man who drove the truck into the crowd of people in New Orleans had previously scouted the French Quarter and recorded video with his Meta smart glasses. Today is January 6th. On Capitol Hill, Vice President Kamala Harris will certify Donald Trump's presidential election victory. The tightest security will be in place, a reminder of what happened at the Capitol 4 years ago. Then defeated Trump sent a mob to fight like hell. No violence, protests, or objections are expected this time around. A winter blast of snow, ice, and bitter cold is gripping the country from the Midwest to the East Coast. Trooper Ben Gardner with the Kansas Highway Patrol started sliding on some ice.
That's what we're dealing with out here, and it's not getting any better, it's getting worse. So get off the roads. Don't be on them, because it's not good, and it might result in something really bad happening.
The NFL's Jacksonville Jaguars returned home early this morning after spending 7 hours wading through a winter storm on the tarmac at Indianapolis International Airport. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer is condemning lies and misinformation that he says are undermining UK democracy in response to a barrage of attacks on his government from Elon Musk. This is AP News. New York's new tolls are in effect to drive in the center of Manhattan. Here's the AP's Julie Walker.
Meaning many people will pay $9 to access 60th Street down during peak hours, $2.25 otherwise, while trucks pay more. The money going to public transportation via the MTA. Head Jano Lieber says other cities are interested in what New York is doing.
And they're calling us and asking to learn more. So that is part of what makes this feel historic. But for New York, what I think is especially important is it shows we can do big things.
But drivers here like Chris Smith, not happy.
It makes no sense. It's the first in the country.
There are still legal challenges to congestion pricing. Julie Walker, New York.
Pope Francis named the first woman to head a major Vatican office. Italian nun Sister Simona Brambilla will be responsible for all the Catholic Church's religious orders. I'm Ed Don.
This is 820 AM, WCPT Willow Springs, and streaming worldwide at WCPT820.com. We are Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter. Now, your WCPT 820 weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter weather advisory is in effect for the forecast area. We'll see periods of snow showers here for today, possibly mixing with areas of freezing rain early on. Total daytime accumulation of 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the north at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Tonight, a slight chance for snow early on. Partly cloudy skies develop, a low near 16. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 25.
T-Mobile 5G home internet keeps getting better. Get our fastest connection loaded with benefits. Get T-Mobile's best home internet starting at $55 a month with auto pay and any voice line. Plus, Price Lock. We won't raise your rate on internet. Check availability at T-Mobile.com/home internet.
Exclusions like taxes and fees apply. Guarantees regular monthly rate plan price of fixed wireless 5G internet data with qualifying service. After $15 bill credit with postpaid voice line plus $5 a month without auto pay with debit or bank account. Regulatory fees included for qualifying accounts. $35 connection charge applies. Speeds vary due to factors affecting cellular networks.
Because facts matter. You are listening to WCPT 820.
Welcome back to Chew's Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820 AM, where facts matter. Take it away, Richard.
And take it away we shall, guys. Welcome back to the second hour of Chew's Views here on Monday, January 6, 2025. Yeah, I've been screaming at you a little bit in a good way. We have to, as Donna said, make sure that hardworking, quote-unquote, regular folks, see, I can't call anybody poor. I just can't do that. Less in resources, lacking resources, resources deprived, whatever. But we have to make sure that we push companies to do better in compensating people. Tired of the BS that the companies can't pay more because then they can't meet their shareholder requirements. That's a bunch of, it's technically correct in that space, but it's a bunch of garbage when it comes to solving the problem of better income and forward movement in our country. It's a bunch of garbage. It just is. I've seen the numbers. I've looked at many company statements and their breakdowns and their shareholder agreement. It can be fixed. Is it a lofty thing? So what if it is? All right. I'm going to leave that alone for a moment just because I think y'all get the point. We have to have the big tent. And make your way over to heartlandsignal.com, our digital platform. Some great opinion pieces that are there. We'll talk about John Roberts again. We certainly have some Republicans that are just dogs. I mean, how are you going to go after a former president like some of these Republicans have against a former president and late now President Carter? How are you going to do that? And, it's up and down. It's up and down the list of Republicans, whether it be state representatives or federal representatives. Y'all need to go, stick your head in some hot water. It's just wrong to do that. And there's a number, you've got a couple clips over at Heartland Signal X that you guys can check out that reference that. So as we move along in this new year, one of the things that I want to say about Heartland Signal is that we're going to have a lot of great content, growing content, as the year progresses. So you guys make your way there. Some quick shout outs to some folks that sent me text messages this morning. Bob out in San Jose, California, thank you for your comments and appreciate your words about MAGA and Congress. And so thank you for listening way out on the West Coast. And got another one that says, couldn't agree with you more about the full tent. And this person was referencing, Henry, how I remember this too. Rahm Emanuel told at the time Obama that don't worry about the Dems not voting for you, which was garbage commentary from Rahm. But what do you expect? And this is something that I wanted to tie to what one of my brothers-in-law and I had a conversation about over the holidays. And we're probably going to have him on the show in the weeks to come because he's part of an organization that makes sure that kids get food. All right. Novel concept. Not being sarcastic there. When Donna talked about this as it relates to the working poor, and when my brother-in-law and I were talking about this as it relates to children not having food, one of the things that he said, which was not new to me, but certainly something you guys should hear, is that they're feeding children not just in the west side of the city of Chicago. They're feeding kids in Highland Park. They're feeding kids in Oak Park. They're feeding kids around and he said, if you're listening, DS, that's something that's happening. Because I asked him, I said, are you able to bear witness to this and in other communities in the country? And he said, he said, I have some real examples and some of it's anecdotal because I just know that it's happening. And he's been in this space as a professional for a number of years, and he's really good at it. And we're going to have him back on the show again, probably later, not probably, but later this month. As a local issue, that's a local issue here, but it's a local issue in other communities. Now, that in terms of children being fed to go to school, being fed and being able to go to school and be effective. The point I'm making here is that one of the text messages that I received talks about basically, I live in the western suburbs. I'm not going to name this person respectfully. I live in the western suburbs, Richard. We have people at corners begging for money all the time. I keep gift cards in my purse to give them something. I know that a lot of people don't carry cash as much as we used to. And this is a small thing that I try to do to help. Exactly. And that's it's a damn shame that we have to do that in the first place. But, I try to do my version of it, and other folks do their versions of it. But that's the point I'm making is the optics of being poor or being without or having struggles is oftentimes, and you're going to appreciate my little bit of a pivot I'm going to make here, is oftentimes directed at communities of color and in certain neighborhoods. But what my brother-in-law shared with me that I already knew, but he confirmed something that is a reality that he experiences, is that they're feeding children up in Highland Park. They're feeding children in other suburbs. And here's a woman that sent me a text, and I say that because they said purse, so I hope I didn't get that wrong. She's got folks in the western suburb of Chicago that she's, making sure she's prepared to provide a little bit of help to. So the challenge is that we got to make sure that we stop lying to each other about where the issues are. That's when going back to what I said about this Big Ten. If progressive liberal Democrats are going to help, and we have to, it's our responsibility, then we have to look at this a little bit more globally again. Not just a community, not just one, all communities. Because western suburbs, if you ask anybody, and Henry, you can correct me if I'm wrong, if you ask people about western suburbs, you're one of the first things that comes to mind is, it's a nice area and no issues, right? No drama, no folks on the corner asking for money, right? That is that which this was shared with me by one of our listeners in the West. That's not the image that first comes to mind, right? That's part of the problem, because we think that folks that are in those communities and wherever someone lives that's hearing this don't hear this the wrong way. We have gotten kind of seduced into thinking that there's certain areas that are blessed with the awfulness of being poor, when in fact it's all over the place. And so our efforts, not just our messaging, has to change to stop thinking that it's only in certain communities, because what happens is psychologically, I know this from talking to people that are sociologists, is that then you start to think, well, why do I want to help those people if they're in those communities that have been labeled as bad communities? And how come they're poor? Why didn't they finish school? And my brother-in-law said this to me, and it took my breath away. He said, why would I go down the path of going, well, they should have finished high school, they should have gone to college, they should have done all these things that are window dressing to success? He said, my job is to help them. It was a profound statement. So if you're listening, DS, kudos to you, brother-in-law. The bigger point is we have to take the light off of someone who doesn't have, is only in certain communities of our city, of our suburbs, of our greater community of a country, and start looking at this as there are people all over who are in that circumstance. Okay? So, how am I linking this? Part of the problem is how mainstream media decides to handle stuff. And I bet you that oftentimes the conversation around where the people who are struggling, and I'm not going to say poor, the people who are struggling live, is in metropolitan areas, certain neighborhoods, and that's true, but it's not only there. But here's where mainstream media is just so, they're just wrong. And I saw this article in HuffPost that I read, and I thought, this is on this January 6th, why I wanted to bring this to you guys, is there are some folks in the mainstream media, and then that are in media that's written and that's television and streaming and all the rest, that still are trying to think that Donald Trump rewrote January 6th. by his ways of denouncing and all the things that Trump did, and a lot of that's true. But at the end of the day, the real folks that made January 6th seem as though it maybe didn't happen, or seem as though Donald Trump wasn't as a huge part and at fault for that and got impeached for that, it wasn't because he put some mind trick on people. It's because the mainstream media didn't do their damn job of talking about it, not from, well, maybe he didn't really do it, and maybe it wasn't that bad, and having him on indirectly and through his mouthpieces to make it seem and sound like the J6 committee was a bunch of garbage. That was the mainstream media that brought that to you, not some magical mindset, that Donald Trump put on the country. That wasn't it. He was a cause of an insurrection. Let's just say it, mainstream media, or not maybe he was, or the potential. No, y'all didn't do your jobs. And in a good example of how this misdirection is designed for one purpose, and that's to misdirect, is the way in which Kristen Welker went after Chuck Schumer and saying that, or inferring that the Democrats lied, starting with you, Chuck Schumer, about President Biden's mental sharpness and mental decline. And he immediately shut her down. One, because it's garbage. But the other reason is, with all the things happening in our country about how things happen, NBC's Kristen Welker wasn't interested in the Republican refusal to do anything to what? Lower prices or a plan to cut taxes and on the wealthy and corporations, or how Republicans are eyeing up paying for those taxes and those cuts that they want to offer by taking health care away from millions of Americans. She would rather talk about and go after Chuck Schumer for him or the Democrats downplaying or not downplaying, lying, as she said, about President Biden's health care and mental sharpness. Rather than talk about what the Republicans have done to dog this country, she wanted to talk about that garbage. And I'm glad he shut her down. Okay? Mainstream media is doing the same thing with J6. J6 was looked at as a rogue group of folks that were going after Donald Trump for something that he didn't do. That's how mainstream media portrayed it. If you don't believe me, go back, just Google, coverage from, we'll call it June of 2021 and forward. You don't have to believe me. The evidence is there. So when we talk about this in the bigger context of how America has left people behind, or how the corporations and all the politicians, let's ask ourselves how mainstream media has left America behind. Because they certainly have. There's no question in my mind they have. And that's why you get garbage reporting from Kristen Welker on things like Chuck Schumer lying and the Democrats lying about President Biden's mental sharpness. And that's how you get them wanting to say that Donald Trump put some mind trick on people to get people to think that he was rewriting J6. No, the mainstream media didn't do their job. It's a fact. When we come back, I want to play a clip that I played shortly after the election, and I want you guys to hear about another observation about where we are and what took place and what's taking place. 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
This is a WCPT moment in labor. When Serena Williams won her title at the Tennis Grand Slam tournament, we know she gets the same prize money as her male counterpart. However, prior to 1973, that wasn't always the case. When Billie Jean King captured her first Wimbledon title in 1966, she was surprised to find out that the winner of the men's tournament received £2,000, while she only received £750. After being unable to find any tournaments for women, King and 8 other women formed their own tournament. the Virginia Slims Invitational, where each woman was paid $1 before posing for the famous picture of them each holding up their dollar, with the caption, "Contract Pros." While the move was bold, the pay discrepancies continued. King threatened to boycott the 1973 U.S. Open unless the women were paid the same as the men. Thanks to a grant from Band Deodorant, both the men and women singles would take home $25,000. Despite the progress at the U.S. Open, it wouldn't be until 1984 that the Australian Open would execute equal pay, followed by the French Open in 2006, and finally Wimbledon in 2007. This has been a WCPT moment in labor. We're fighting for your rights.
Hey Google, play WCPT.
Streaming Chicago's progressive talk from TuneIn.
You're listening to Choose Views with Richard Chew on WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk.
Hey guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. Glad to be with you as always. And we have a guest going to be with us in the 7:30 hour. But for now, in case you're listening, Jennifer, who's out there serving and taking care of people, I want to give you another shout out. And I know that you are one of those folks that takes care and making sure that people are safe and healthy. And yes, you're right. Vaccines do work. So I'm quoting from an email that she sent me over the weekend. So just a shout out to you. Now, the clip that I played before, right after the election, and then we're going to play real quick, is where, even some of the best that we follow and give certain amount of praise and acknowledgement to the mainstream media they get it. It's not that they don't get it wrong. They don't stop and think about how what they're saying really is not, it's impacting people in a certain way. And this is that conversation that we talked about earlier about we didn't talk to the, we didn't talk to the young men in America, and we didn't talk to, mainstream America, or we didn't talk to middle America, or there's a part of what happened, guys, that America just has to wrestle with. And as we start the new year, this first full week in this J6, what America did, or 50% of America, voting numbers, not 50% of the country in its entirety, did, is exactly what Dr. Eddie Glaude, who I've got issues with and how he's handled certain things, but in this moment, he speaks a truth that the country has got to wrestle with if it's truly looking to move forward. So Henry's got a clip for us that we want to let you guys hear.
Son's still living in the basement. I can't seem to get a job. I don't like the status quo. I'm voting for something else, and he was
I
the person.
love you to life.
I love you.
But I do not believe that. I cannot believe that. And the reason I think you believe it is because you don't want to believe that that's what's really motivating them. It's always the case. People don't want to believe what the country actually is, because if they believe it, they're going to have to confront what's in them. I don't believe that. They voted for a crook, a person who they know is stealing from, just doing everything to undermine the so-called country that they love. And then they're telling us the BS that it's economics. We know that's not true. We know it's not true, and we got to raise our kids in this shit.
So, that's Dr. Eddie Glaude, Princeton professor, and you guys can look him up. He's a brilliant dude, smart dude, brilliant dude, and that's really what the country doesn't want to grapple with, what he said. And I link that to, because this is kind of how my brain works, I link that to the denial that the country has never really faced, not just in the space of this election, but in general. Going back to what Don, it's never faced the fact that we have a working poor class of people of all communities, of all cultures. And that the Democrats have the opportunity to speak to that, but also to the middle class, to middle America, and to speak to the wealthy Americans. Because wealthy Americans got some issues too that they're upset about. So that's the real clarion call for the Democratic Party right now. It ain't going after middle. It ain't trying to get more voters out of the diner. The stereotypical what the media wants you to think is let's go to the diner folks. And I'm not being a jerk in saying it that way. You all know what I'm talking about. We as progressive liberal Democrats owe it to the country to have a broader, fully inclusive, as I say, all players means all players, approach as we go forward on every level. Mayor Johnson, excuse me, President Preckwinkle and Governor Pritzker, and those who are like them in other states. That's how we win, y'all. That's how we win. It's not rocket science. And we also have to call out mainstream media all the time. So last week, our good friend Karen Byrne from True Blue Politics podcast was with us in studio. And we may have talked about some of this on the air. We may have talked about some of it off because there were some expletives in the conversation. But one of the things that right now all of us have to do, and I've been speaking to this for a long time, is and our elected officials and our business leaders have to do, is when there's some garbage put out there, you need to call it out real time. I promise you'll feel a sense of relief. You won't walk home, drive home, get home, whatever, get to your next venue and go, man, I wish I had said something. And part of the way that you have to be able to do that is to be prepared for it when it's coming at you. One of the things that I try to do and kind of wear as my badge of honor is to provide you guys with information or what's inside of me about dealing with those things, and to keep you, as I've said oftentimes, stouted up to talk about it. And that's where and what we have to require of our leaders of all sorts in all categories. And I think it's our responsibility. So when Eddie Glaude talks about that on Stephanie Ruhl's show, what he was trying to get her to understand respectfully is we got to stop lying to ourselves. We have to stop lying to ourselves about what happened in this election, what was coming and brewing and took place in this election. And at the same time, when we talk about this as it relates to our business community, we have to start letting business leaders know this is no longer acceptable. It's unacceptable. It just is. And I believe that if we can embrace that message, then we will see the progress that we so desperately need, and that as progressive liberal Democrats, we say that we lean into, and that is a part of us. So I just, I wanted to be able to talk about this morning on J6 2025, and make it clear that we can honor our entire communities. We can honor our working class folk as much as we can honor and recognize those that are, quote unquote, at the opposite end of that scale. And I think that we should start that conversation by making it more required that companies pay people more. And I'm talking about the Fortune 5, 1,000, 1,500 companies in this country. Is it a big ask? Sure it is. I'm not stupid. I know it's a big ask. But how much more can we acquire? How much more can companies acquire at the risk of turning away from having a healthy economy and having healthy people working in a healthy environment? I just feel that's one of the misses. Misses us in terms of things that we don't get on target. So let's please make sure that we stay focused on that this year. We can dog Trump all day long about what happened on J6, and we know what happened. And as Hakeem Jeffrey says, that's not coming from we know that there won't be any folks on the left or Democrats pulling that kind of garbage. We know that. So I'm sharing my piece in that space, guys. Because I see it maybe in a broader sense. I'm not saying that no one else does, but I see it in a broader sense. How can we make sure that we in this cycle, we spend all the time we can inspiring our leaders of all categories and all levels to do a better job of reaching more people. And more people and more players means all players. I think we are fully capable of doing that. And some of it's, again, repeating myself for a good reason. Some of it's by measure of us having the will to put on that cape and call people out in the moment when garbage comes your way, and to not sit back and take it in this next cycle on any level, and pushing all businesses, boards of directors that, hey, this is unacceptable. So there we go. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we have our guest, Alex Nitkin, that will be with us to talk a little bit about folks who are driving too fast. All right, guys, 773-763-9278. This is Choose Views, and we'll be right back.
Hello, fellow progressives. Attorney Tony Moret here. I want to thank all the WCPT listeners who have put their trust in me. I know that nothing is more important to you than your family, and it is an honor to be trusted to help carry out your wishes. Planning your estate can seem overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be. My 30 years of experience will help guide you through this very important process to help preserve your family legacy. Whether it is drafting a living trust or a will, I will be with you every step of the way. In my practice, facts matter, so advertising on WCPT has been a perfect fit. We can get things started if you call me at 847-996-0496. The initial meeting is completely free and there's no obligation. All it takes is one phone call. My website is moretlawoffice.com. That's Moret spelled M-O-R-E-E. As they say, sometimes the first step is the hardest. But all you need to do is call me at 847-996-0496.
You're listening to WCPT 820. Here's the latest Chicago weather update.
From the Weatherology Weather Center, I'm meteorologist Jennifer Wojcicki. A winter weather advisory is in effect for the forecast area. We'll see periods of snow showers here for today, possibly mixing with areas of freezing rain early on. Total daytime accumulation of 1 to 2 inches possible. Cloudy skies with a high in the upper 20s. Winds out of the north at 10 to 20 miles per hour, gusting as high as 25. Tonight, a slight chance for snow early on. Partly cloudy skies develop below near 16. That's your latest Chicago weather update. Currently, it's 26.
WCPT 820, Chicago's progressive talk, where facts matter.
It's Choose Views with Richard Chu on WCPT 820, where facts matter.
Hey, guys, welcome back to Choose Views, 773-763-9278. So as we talk more and more about local issues are all-encompassing, political, social, economic, and safety is one of the big ones. We have with us this morning government finance and accounting reporter at the Illinois Answers Project, Alex Nitkin. Good morning, sir. How you doing?
Good morning, Richard. I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, and happy 2025 to you and your family.
Happy New Year.
All right. So listen, I've gotten a few speeding tickets in my lifetime.
Yeah, me too.
And I ain't gonna lie and pretend like I'm always monitoring the speed limit. I don't. I'm just not gonna go there and pretend like, I'm always. No, I'm not. I've gotten a few speeding tickets. My wife will tell you, but not reckless speeding. Not like I'm running down a 40 zone, 45 at 70. I don't do that kind of garbage. I've gotten that 5 to 7 mile over the speed limit ticket.
Oh yeah.
And so that's happened.
Yeah,
and
me
so
too.
I throw myself under the bus right out of the gate, and you just said you too. But
absolutely.
So, guys, Alex is going to talk to us this morning about something that's going on here in the city of Chicago, that Chicago is debating lowering its speed limit. Other cities aren't waiting, as you captioned. They've already done it. They've been that way for years. So, Alex, take a moment, introduce yourself a little bit more specifically to the audience, and then talk about what's happening with the city council as it relates to changing our speed limit in the city of Chicago.
Yeah, for sure. My name is Alex Nitkin, Government Finance and Accountability Reporter for Illinois Answers Project, which is the editorial wing, the newsroom wing of the Better Government Association, which is a 100-year-old nonpartisan nonprofit based here in Chicago. Basically, we're investigative newsroom, and we look into different aspects of Chicago and state government and trying to just look into essentially what's working and what is not, what areas of improvement there are. One of the big areas of focus that we are doing is to look at, other cities in the way that they have solved certain problems that Chicago, or not solved, but, improved certain problems that Chicago is still burdened with. One of the things that we have been looking at and trying to focus on more is traffic safety and sort of issues that are before the city council right now. And now that the budget is wrapped up, it seems like really this is going to be the next big issue before the city council is this ordinance that has been introduced and actually passed the committee to lower the statutory maximum speed limit in the city of Chicago on city streets, so not including expressways, from 30 to 25 miles an hour. Now, 30 is basically the state default speed limit, and other than that, you would have to sort of manually lower it to 25 or 20 around the city. And now Alderman Daniel Espada, who's the chair of the City Council Traffic Safety, Pedestrian and Traffic Safety Committee, has introduced an ordinance and passed it through committee that just needs to get through City Council to lower the citywide speed limit from 30 to 25 miles an hour. And obviously it's super controversial. I mean, pretty much the first thing that came to my mind and comes to a lot of people's minds are, there are going to be a lot more traffic tickets when this happens. People tend to be skeptical of anything that seems like it's just trying to get more revenue or more tickets from drivers. So we basically went and looked at other cities' track records with this and found that Chicago has actually fallen behind most other major cities that have already made this move a long time ago. And it was controversial at the time. And after they made the move, there was a really significant decrease in traffic deaths and a really tangible improvement in traffic safety without really much of an increase in ticketing or fines or anything like that.
Wow. Okay, so as I said right out of the gate, I've gotten a few speeding tickets, not out of being reckless, but just that 5 to 7 miles over. You got your brain on something else, and you get hit with the camera, ticket, and all the rest that we know is out there. So, question and statement, Alex. Why is it not? I mean, listen, other cities have done it. That means it's workable, but that's not the reason to do something. You do it based on the data. Just because somebody else is doing it doesn't mean that you do it. But if the data backs it up, then it might be something to look into. So just be brutally honest, because I don't pick my favorites. Why has it not happened yet in the city of Chicago? In your observation.
Listen, this is a question that I think applies to a lot of different aspects of city government. I think that Chicago likes to think of itself as being different and can't compare itself to any other city, whereas, at the end of the day, there are just nationally accepted best practices that the city has sort of been slow to move to. I think a big part of the resistance is that, the way that the city council sort of functions as a controlling body for the city, every alderman likes to have their own sort of dictates over whatever happens in their own ward. Right. And essentially we heard a lot of this debate when this ordinance was coming up through the committee. This was the basis for a lot of the resistance from aldermen who were saying things like, well, why do you want to do this for the whole city? We individually, all 50 of us, know our individual wards best. So why don't you just lower the speed limit only in the wards where the aldermen want to lower the speed limit?
That's garbage. That's insane. Listen, this is why I can say this full-throated. I love my city, and I'm going to criticize my city for the not good things, and I'm going to praise it for the good things. But that's just flat-out garbage. I'm hoping to have a conversation later this week with Mayor Johnson. I may bring this up. That's just crazy. So you and I, Alex, are driving from one ward to another, or one neighborhood to another, and suddenly the speed limit goes from one to the next, or up or down. That's going to cause more tickets than if it's across the board. They're out of their mind.
So that's a big argument. Yeah, I mean, that's an argument for just doing a big one fell swoop across the board. But it's also, I mean, you asked a reason why Chicago has held out and not made a lot of these reforms that other cities do. This kind of, parochial ward by ward thinking applies to things like housing policy with accessory dwelling unit ordinance, or booting cars is legal in some wards, not other wards. Is a reason why Chicago can resist a lot of these reforms that are just data has shown has been really effective in other cities, is because there has been this culture of you try it in your ward, I'm going to keep it the way it is in my ward. So that's just sort of one answer to your question. But again, we looked at, New York lowered the speed limit to 25 miles an hour in 2014. Seattle did it. All cities all over California are doing it now, including Seattle, including San Francisco and Los Angeles, Boston. They all basically had very, very similar results, which was almost immediately a 20 to 30% decrease in traffic deaths. San Francisco studied one stretch when they lowered the speed limit by 5 miles an hour. They found about a 30-second increase in the average time of most car trips and a really major decrease in deaths, injuries involving pedestrians. Especially what's really interesting is that every time this has been studied, it's had the most effect, the most dramatic effect, lowering the speed limit on super excessive speeding, like you said in the beginning, like driving with 40 and a 25 mile an hour. That's the most reduced. Yeah. And one of the most interesting things that I thought in Seattle, they did a specific experiment where they deliberately just lowered the speed limit. They replaced signs. They didn't do anything else. They didn't add cameras. They didn't add enforcement. They didn't add infrastructure or curb bump outs or anything like that. And they still, even in that circumstance, saw a pretty significant decrease in crashes and decrease in speeding. So, you kind of think to yourself, like, okay, you change the signs, who's really going to do anything? We're actually seeing that in other cities, when just the signs are changed and nothing else happens, it still makes an impact on the traffic safety.
Sorry. Sorry about that, Alex, and listeners. I caught myself just listening to you, and I wasn't prepared to talk or ask you a question, Alex. Okay. So we know the data is out there that supports it in other communities, and I know from having spent time in each one of those big cities that you just talked about, specifically Los Angeles and San Francisco, that they have a lot of traffic, as does Boston and New York. And they have a similar configuration as it relates to the fiefdoms of aldermen and councilmen and all that, councilwomen. So they got the same sort of layout where you've got folks that are elected to run their part of the city, if you will. So that's just an excuse at this point. And boy, it touches a nerve with me because I've gotten my speeding tickets, I've gotten my share, but not out of being reckless, but just not paying close enough attention. I think this will benefit many more people from a pedestrian standpoint than it will from a car-to-car standpoint. Is there any evidence to back that part of it up?
Yeah, I mean, essentially we're just looking at these areas and cities where this has gone into effect and just seeing that, pretty consistently the streets become safer, cars get slower, and, fewer people are getting hit. Most of the emphasis when people think about driving around during the day and, the streets are clogged with traffic and it doesn't matter anyway. But most of the traffic deaths that are happening in big cities, including in Chicago, are at night, not a lot of cars on the road. And, someone is, pre-dawn hours walking to work or something, and someone is just speeding along because they think that they're the only one on the road.
Yep.
And that's when a lot of these traffic deaths happen. And so, basically, the evidence has shown that just lowering the speed limit a little bit has really made the difference there. And sort of just speaking from my own experience, I've gotten speeding tickets, especially those 6 to 10 mile an hour ones they get you for, the $35 tickets. I feel like one effect of them is that they're very annoying, and then I watch out for the places where you start to learn where the speed traps are.
Yeah.
And I think that the most impact, and this has actually been observed in Chicago for sure, where the speeding tickets are. I mean, there are real decreases in speeding around there, especially because those are placed around schools and parks, because people tend to learn where the speed traps are, and they slow down, which ultimately is the goal. It's not to give more people more tickets.
Alex,
and that was actually,
No, man, I'm laughing with you because the where I've gotten the majority of the speeding tickets that I've gotten is in a specific area, and I finally had to tell myself, listen, dumb A, slow the blank down, because it's there. It's gonna get you. So I've had to mentally say, that doesn't mean that you're not supposed to drive the speed limit in other areas where there's not a camera. It just means slow yourself down a little bit. And so it's interesting that you put it that way, because I'm laughing at myself going, that's exactly what I had to tell myself to do. And in the bigger picture, it made me go, just slow down. You're going to get there. And I'm talking, and the speeding ticket the area that I'm talking about, like you, is in a certain area, a certain time of day. It's an area you drive on a regular basis, and you know to do better. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, that's at least the goal. That's what they're there for. I mean, it's a little bit hard to believe that they're not just about revenue sometimes, like in the budget negotiation the last couple of months, where they sort of announced that they were going to, increase speed cameras in order to basically close a $10 million hole at the time in the budget. It's kind of a bad look, because ultimately, from a policy standpoint, the whole point of these fines is supposed to be for deterrence of bad behavior, and nothing to do with revenue.
Right.
Interestingly, there was the New York Department of Transportation studied the impact of their speed camera program, which dates back to 2013. At first, it was really small and just around schools, and they expanded it to the whole city, and found that more than half of the people who got speed camera violations there did not get a second one. And something like another 20 or 30% who got a second one did not get a third one. So that would be evidence of, the
impact,
cameras and the fines really doing their job. There's a whole other dimension to this, which I only briefly mentioned, which is infrastructure. I mean, a lot of advocates for road safety and pedestrian safety would say that the whole end goal here should be designing streets such that, super speeding is impossible, with things like, making the lanes a little bit narrower, but you sort of just like raising crosswalks or some more speed bumps, or making sidewalks a little wider, things that, don't really have a whole lot of impact on traffic, or if anything, make traffic a little smoother and more directed, but just, make it easier for the drivers to sort of know, hey, this is a 20 or 25 mile an hour zone.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't make sense to blast through at 40.
Well, one of the things that I wrote down,
is going to be a huge part of this.
Yeah, sorry, Eric. One of the things I wrote down in my notes, and to your point, is about awareness will help. And so the two kind of final things I want to touch on is awareness is going to help. Making, if this were to go through, it being a more publicly discussed thing that we have out there amongst us, so people know it's coming. Hopefully that will be part of this, and I think you're shedding a lot of light on it. The other thing I wanted to mention is what are the businesses' input, or do you have any information in terms of what businesses are saying about this, particularly if we're talking about streets that go through areas that are highly populated residential and then highly populated business, and then the mix. What are you seeing there, though?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting question. Frankly, the business constituencies and chambers of commerce and restaurant association, all those really haven't come out of the woodwork to develop any kind of opinion on this. I think that you do sometimes see businesses come out and protest things that will, take away parking. They feel like that will impact businesses, but ultimately, I guess the other side of that argument is, hey, if cars are going slower and they're not just speeding past all the businesses, they might actually be able to, slow down and look over and see, oh, hey, maybe I should stop and shop there or eat there.
Mm-hmm.
So the short answer is we haven't heard a whole lot from business constituencies. I think that it ultimately comes down to a battle between the sort of biking, transit, walking constituency out there, and just drivers and aldermen who, are concerned really about, and I think reasonably so, about equity in ticketing, and sort of who would bear the brunt of most of the ticketing. But, interestingly, in the last couple of years, it seems like more political momentum for lowering the speed limit has built, because for as many drivers who are living in their wards saying, hey, I'm getting too many tickets, there are very often more parents and residents who are saying, hey, there are these maniacs who are speeding all over the place and putting our kids at risk. And those folks want controls on speeding and on traffic safety. And so it seems like it's a pretty, precarious vote at this point. The sponsor of the ordinance, thinks that he has enough votes, but it's going to be close, and it's sort of a live ball right now. It seems like it's going to maybe be resolved in the next couple of months or so, so it's something to keep an eye on.
So, Alex, what is it that you and I individually and collectively can do to forward this conversation and maybe get this one across the finish line? And what can others do, frankly? What can regular citizens do?
That's a really good question. I think that ultimately, at a base level, it comes down to talking to your alderman, showing up to ward nights, calling the office, saying, hey, how are you voting on this issue? How do you feel about it? And just expressing how you feel about it, either as a driver or as someone who uses the streets on foot or has kids in schools who you worry about their safety, walking to or from school. Just express your view to your local alderman, because that matters, on a local level so much more than people realize it does. It's very common for, on the floor of the city council even, an alderman to stand up and say something like, I was this way on an issue, but then 4 people called my office and expressed a different view, and so I changed it. It really is, that's sort of the beauty of local politics and local organizing.
There it is.
That kind of change and impact really is possible. And then other than that, I think just, something that I've started to do since I started reporting on this is just sort of looking at my speedometer a little bit more and noticing, when I'm driving down sort of one of the bigger roads in Chicago on like Ashland or Irving or Ogden or, Garfield, and just realizing am I, do I need to be going 30 right now? Can I be going 25 or 27, and just sort of noticing?
Yeah.
Just sort of that's the other part of just sort of being a good citizen and user of the public way.
Wow. That, Alex, you and I could talk about, we could laugh about this and about it because of the fact that we both have had a similar experience in getting that 6 to 10 mile per hour ticket. But I thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to say this as we wrap up. Guys, this is Alex Nitkin, and he is government, finance, and accountability reporter at Illinois Answers Project. A great dude that's doing some heavy lifting, not just in this space, but in other areas. And I'd really like to have you back on the show in the future, because you've written some wonderful articles and, kind of taken the cover off of some things that we need to talk about as a society, specifically here in the city of Chicago and the surrounding area. So, Alex, thank you for being with us, and thanks for the work that you do. And how can folks find you?
You can read all of our stuff, of mine and my colleagues, at illinoisanswers.org, or our colleagues who are on the other side of the firewall doing policy advocacy work at bettergov.org.
Awesome. Alex Nitkin, y'all. Good to be with you, my man. Happy New Year to you, and slow down a little bit when you're driving, okay?
Thanks so much. Yeah, you too.
See, I knew I'd get you to say it. All right, Alex, thanks for being with us, and we'll have you back in the future, okay?
Yep. Have a good day and a great week.
You too. Bye now.
Bye.
Oh, wow. Anybody that says that conversation wasn't relevant to me, you're lying to yourself, even if you don't drive that much. We all have stepped on that gas pedal a little bit too hard too often. So I commend Alex for the work that he's doing. And, I know that there's folks that have a different opinion about it. And we're going to just not go through a break. We'll finish up. Yeah. All right. I know that there's folks who said things like, well, if you drive too slow in an area, then you could cause an accident. I get that. I remember that, and I got a text from someone earlier saying that, let me see if I can read this out, Henry. Speed limits. Many years ago, when I took my driver's ed, the teacher taught our class to go, quote, the common speed of traffic, because if you're driving 55 when someone else is doing 80, you're going to cause a wreck. Well, you're not causing the wreck because at the speed limits, and I agree with what the person's saying. I know where you're coming from on that. I remember that too. So I'm not criticizing what they said. You're not the one causing the wreck, though, if you're driving the speed limit. It's the person who's driving over the speed limit that caused the wreck. I get it. And that was a phrase that I remember too. Thank you for sending me that text. To go the common speed of traffic. When you're on a highway, that's probably more relevant. Because I will say, if someone's driving too slow or below the speed limit, then, we want them to get over to the right lane. And God forbid something's going on that's causing them to drive that slow. They may have an impairment, or they got, who knows? Something may be happening. But by and large, I get that in terms of the common speed of traffic. But if everybody's driving 80 miles an hour, it increases the odds that there's going to be an accident. So we all have to, and I'm pointing the ire at myself. First and foremost, we have to drive the speed limit and be mindful of it. I like what Alex said about looking down at the speedometer and all that. My phone will tell me that I'm driving too fast. I didn't realize this. About a year ago, it was on the expressway. It was on the whatever it was. I think it was on the Kennedy. No, I was on the Eisenhower, and it said a red thing flashed up that said I was speeding. I thought, okay, that's good to know. I got another text, Henry. Let's see, what does this one say? Hold on, guys. Okay, here's a thought. Compare the number of deaths and injuries and the total cost of damages and destruction on January 6th to those caused during 6 months of daily nationwide peaceful protests turned riot status. Okay, that's an interesting perspective. But here's why I think that, and that may have been less to do with driving and more to do with destruction by the J6 crowd. In general, though, what Alex was saying about looking at your speedometer is probably good measure and good medicine for all of us. It's great to have him with us, and sometimes with those kinds of conversations, you have to stop and put yourself in the literal driver's seat and go, yeah, this does apply to me, because I'm a pedestrian, I'm a biker. I'm talking to all of us. We all are at some point a pedestrian. We all, are driving. We're all in a vehicle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. This is something that impacts us all. So I'm going to do my part in this space to lean into it with my alderwoman, Pat Dowell, and I'm going to do the same when it comes to other folks that I know that are part of city council and our city government, because I think this is something that I don't think it's going to hurt. Again, I'm trying not to be anecdotal in this space or situational, but the greater conversation is the math, the numbers, the data that says that it's working in other cities. And let's face it, New York and LA have more traffic than we do, and Seattle has less, so that's a good comparison. So if we're in the middle of just taking these three cities plus us, adding San Francisco, which has less overall traffic than we do, City Council, come on, y'all. For those of you who are listening and those of you who know someone on the City Council, get your boy, get your girl. Make the phone call, like Alex said, and be a part of the solution. Local, that's why we're bringing you guys more and more local content and folks that we speak with, because local affects regional, regional affects national, and national affects the world. And that's what we have an opportunity to do as progressive liberal Democrats. We have the opportunity now. We've always had it, but it's in our face to affect the world. And it starts with us recognizing that something as seemingly small as a speed limit is going to have a more regional and national and global impact. Let's do our part. Let's not leave anybody on the sidelines. Let's take a message from what Donna said earlier, who called in, and reach out to all the folks that need to be in this tent. As always, guys, great to be with you. Starting off the new year, first full week. This is Choose Views. Take a deep breath. Make your life count. We'll see you tomorrow.
This is a WCPT Veteran Minute. In the midst of World War II, a group of Native American soldiers known as the Code Talkers became silent heroes. The U.S. military faced challenge of secure communications on the battlefield, and these men, primarily from the Navajo tribe, were enlisted to develop an unbreakable code. Using their native language, which had no written alphabet, they transmitted vital messages that were indecipherable to enemy forces. The code proved to be an essential asset, particularly in the Pacific Theater, where it helped the Allies win crucial battles. The Code Talkers' courage and ingenuity saved countless lives and turned the tide of the war. Yet, their contributions remained largely unknown until decades later. The legacy of the Code Talkers stands as a testament to the strength, resilience, and invaluable service of Native Americans during one of America's most devastating conflicts. This has been a WCPT Veteran Minute.